Hello, everybody. My name is Blue, and today we're back with another episode of the Grassland Animal Zoo. Today we're doing the emus, and this build will be very different from the others so far, in my opinion, because this one is less modern. I suppose the reason for this is because since emus are known to be quite like farm animals, I thought like giving it more of a farm-like feeling would work better, and it worked out well. I think this is one of the better builds so far, actually. And well, I'm starting off with raising this cliff area at the wallabies because I wanted the emus to be next to the wallabies, since it creates a bit of an outback area. I also add a couple of signs, basically saying that you're entering like the outback, theming the zoo a bit, making it a bit more interesting, I suppose. And the enclosure isn't too big. I think it's a bit small for the emus, in my opinion, but it's sandbox, so it looks good enough, I suppose. And it will have like a glass kind of wall, so it's a low wall, and I'm using the stalactites pieces from the Twilight pack, as you can see, and they actually have this like different kind of rock texture, and it looks quite good. So I thought I'll use it for this build, and it worked out quite well. It looks quite cool, I suppose. So yeah, I'm using the New World glass panels for the actual like wall, so you can look into the exhibit. It's obviously the children can also look through the glass if they're too short to look over the wall, I suppose. So I suppose that's one of the reasons. And then there will be a elevated section for the guests to go on to and like have a elevated view of the enclosure, but it won't actually be accessible by the in-game like guests, since there's no path that goes to it. But like there is a staircase, it's just not a real staircase, I suppose. It's more for aesthetic, but it looks like a guest could go up there and have a look at the emus and stuff like that. In general, it's quite simple, very woody, a lot of wood, not a lot of metal. I don't think any metal at all, or very minimal at least, and also not a lot of plaster, absolutely no plaster, only a bit of the plaster I use at the beginning for like a planter that I'll add at the end. And well, I'm using these metal beams, but I end up replacing them with the North African wooden beams. I think they are called something like that. As you can see here, I'm replacing them with the wooden beams right there, and using the Indian drapery, I want to say it's called the Indian drapery, those banners, kind of like the drapery, obviously, the banners that go over for shade. They're very versatile because you can recolor them. They're flexicolor, so it has this pattern, but if you give both pattern and like the base color the same color, the pattern disappears. So that's really good. So you can make just plain banners, which is really cool. And then obviously having a little staircase, which would be accessible by guests in like obviously a realistic setting. It's not wheelchair friendly, so sorry for anyone who's in a wheelchair, but you have to, I suppose, you'll just have to get the ground view. But I was actually thinking of just keeping it like a ramp, but I think that would have just been a bit too steep to be a ramp, so I turned into a staircase eventually anyway. But you get a great view from down there as well, so I don't think this elevated view is that necessary. It just looks good, really, in my opinion. And so yeah, and the emus are also really nice addition to the game. It's another bird, and obviously everyone loves birds. Everyone is asking for birds, so here's another bird. I mean, it can't fly, but it's a bird. And it competes with the emu when it comes to quality, because they both look really good, and the emu, it looks very realistic. Frontier really outdid themselves this time, like a lot of the other models in this DLC. Actually, the DLC has some great models, to be honest. But yeah, the emu, it's a great addition, and it's one that people really wanted since the Australia pack. Some people were annoyed that they added the cassowary instead of the emu. I personally love the cassowary. I'm glad they chose cassowary since it's a more unique animal, but I'm glad that obviously the emu is in the game now as well, because it's a very iconic Australian animal. So yeah, and the rest of the barriers of this enclosure will be completely just the mesh. These mesh barriers. I don't know what it's exactly called, but yeah, basically using those pieces. And then for the connection points, I use the Australian logs. I don't know what their name is exactly, but it's these the logs from Australia. The shelter, this is just a tiny shelter. It's very simple. A lot of this build is quite simple. It's again the Australian log pieces, rotating them so it doesn't look repetitive, and then eventually just adding some natural logs, some broken trees and stuff around it as well, and some rocks but it looks simple, but the end result looks quite good. It's from everything in this build is from some references, 4 different references, I think. And this shelter was from a bovine enclosure. I can't really say which species it was, but I know it's from some bovine. I thought, this would work perfectly fine. And it looks very simple, but once I add the grasses on top, because I will add grasses on top of the shelter, it looks way better, and I think the logs, the broken trees around it also spruce it up a bit, and having some faux rocks around it eventually as well. So yeah, I think it doesn't need to be a very complex build. Sometimes simple builds work out really well as well, especially if you want to go for something zoo-esque, if you want to feel like it's a zoo, because zoos don't have these fancy buildings most of the time. They're very simple, because obviously stuff costs money and zoos don't have infinite money, so it makes sense that a lot of it feels like it's handmade, it's crafted by someone. It's not I suppose mass produced or done by professional architects. It's just something simple logs put together. And as you can see, the enclosure is not too big, but we got an albino emu, so that's cool. I was surprised, because in Sandbox it's way more difficult to get albinos, since you don't really breed and stuff. So, but yeah, I was surprised to get an albino first time opening the animal market. There was an albino male emu, so I thought I'll plop one in there. And then here you can see I'm building this. It's supposed to be a farm looking kind of gate. Adding a pole to stop it from opening all the way, and a chain to keep it open, and also adding a chain on the other log, so if you would close it, you could tie the chain around it so it would stay closed. This build also has a lot of trees compared to the other builds. I suppose for a grassland zoo, it's a lot of trees. You wouldn't expect a lot of trees in a grassland, but I wanted to do something different, because for the previous one I added, what was it, for the caracals, I also had something similar with all the trees in the back, and for this one I thought something similar, but instead of having the concrete backdrop, I had just this mesh fence, so I added grasses and trees and more grasses. The elephant grass mostly, and then also a second fence in front, so the emus can't pick your eyes out, I suppose. Not that it would happen, but it's also safety for the emus. Obviously, you're not supposed to feed them or pet them, you know, and stuff like that. And the actual enclosure itself is extremely grassy as well, obviously, since it's the Grassland Zoo. So yeah, I think that's about it really when it comes to the speed build. I'm just gonna add some simple like enrichment items, food and stuff. I think, oh yeah, I add a little fence in front as well, but like I said, it's quite a simple build, but it looks natural. A lot of plants, a lot of trees and stuff, rocks, and very little plaster, so that's why I suppose it looks more farm-like. So I think that's nice. It's something different. I'll see what the other enclosures in the future will give us, but you know, it's something different. And I think I end up by adding a load of rocks at the back and then a simple fence, like just like a rope fence in front as well. And then that's about it. So I hope you enjoyed this speed build, and we'll hop into real-time showcase in a minute. And well, enjoy the rest of the speed build really. Alright, so here we are. As you can see, I've also added some signs. So here is a welcome to the Outback sign, because this area has the wallabies and the emus and possibly some other Australian animals that I could add in the future. And if we continue here, yeah, I mean, it's I'd say it's the most simple build so far, but it's also, this one is very naturalistic, very, I suppose, because of the emus being quite well known to be in like farms and stuff, I made this look more farm-like instead of very modern. But yeah, so you have a couple of viewing points and all of them are quite good. The enclosure is not too big, but yeah, so there's one actual like albino emu actually, which is cool, and I think the emus look really cool and they're really big birds. Like it's like people underestimate how big these birds are. They're so stunning to watch, and I think the emu, they nailed it. I think the emu model is really well done. And it's another bird, so that's great. I love having more birds in the game, and let's be honest, everyone wanted the emu, so yeah, that's great to see the emu in game. I think this, I mean, it's difficult to say which model I prefer now, like the emu or the cassowary, because they're both like probably two of the most realistic models in the game, together with like the crocodilians, I must say as well, are very well done. But yeah, these emus are so good. And yeah, if you continue, we have some other views and you know, nice fences and stuff. The actual shelter is quite basic. I wanted to give it a very DIY kind of look. Just like, you know, it's just some logs quickly put together. And then this is well, not accessible by actual guests, but I can access it, so we can have a look up here. And oh, look at that, this is a nice view, and the shade as well, which really helps. And whatever animal will be there, you could have a few of them roaming around there as well in the distance. So yeah, and there's I suppose more of a hidden away area in the back, but obviously still visible from the guests. And there's also a tiny little staff area. Oh, I should have actually added some like staff buildings So yeah, I could definitely do that. And yeah, the nice backdrop I've made the rock face a bit taller there, and I've added some grass on top. So I think all in all, it worked quite well. It's definitely the most natural one, because there's a lot of trees that surround this enclosure. And even from this enclosure, you can still see the building. I think it's visible from every single real-time preview so far. I think it's visible from every single enclosure. But so yeah, here are the emus. This is the emu enclosure, and I hope you enjoyed this speed build and the walkthrough at the end. If you enjoyed these kind of videos, then you can let me know, if you want some more of the Grasslands. Well, obviously we already have 4 episodes, but if you want another episode, you can always comment it down below. Or if you'd like me to maybe build something else, maybe a different zoo, or if you want me to continue on the Higashiyama Zoo, you can always let me know, and then I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.